Hello everyone. In the last video we configured a file server cluster of 2 nodes, and in this video I'm going to show you also how to use Bitlocker to encrypt the disks that are part of the cluster. The first thing we need to do before starting with the PowerShell part is to configure a group policy that sets a couple of Bitlocker settings. So firstly, I want to separate a little my servers. I will create a new organizational unit called Encrypt. And in this OU, I'm going to put my 2 cluster nodes. And the group policy will apply only on these nodes because this is all I need to set the settings for Bitlocker. I don't need to set them on the cluster objects or anything, only on the nodes. And now with this taken care of, let's configure our group policy for Bitlocker. Under Encrypt, we create a new policy. Let's name it Bitlocker. And we only need to set one thing. In policies, in administrative templates, in Windows components, we find Bitlocker. We are going to go to fixed data drives, and in fixed data drives we want to configure the last part, how the recovery case can be recovered. Click on enabled, and most of the things are already set. I like also to set the last thing to start encrypting the disks after I'm sure that my recovery information is safe in Active Directory, so I can recover it easily. Click apply, and that's it for the group policy. Now our recovery information will be set on one of these nodes, depends on the one that I will run the commands on. So with this out of the way, we can go and start configuring Bitlocker with PowerShell. Now, since we just configured a group policy and it will be set on these 2 servers, of course we either have to restart them or run gp update force. But as you see here, anyway, installing Bitlocker requires a restart, so why not? I will first install Bitlocker on FS01A and restart it. Okay, restart computer. And now we are going to wait about a minute. Now let's also install Bitlocker on the B node. And now we can go ahead and start really encrypting the disks and working with the recovery information. Let's enter with PowerShell emoting on the A node. And we will encrypt both of our disks, the disk that hosts the cluster shared volume and also the normal disk for the general file server. And these are the commands that we can use to suspend our disks, our resources, because we cannot encrypt them while they are online. Let's suspend the cluster shared volume. Let's suspend the disk. Done and done. And now we can enable Bitlocker on both of them. Enable on the cluster shared volume. Let's enable it also on the file server disk. Now in the next two commands we are going to get the protectors for both disks for BitLocker in these variables. First one done, second one done. And we are going to back up these protectors. First the cluster share volume, and then for the disk. And the last part, we need to configure this one on the actual node, on FSO1A for example, and this will set or this will give the cluster the possibility to be able to decrypt the disks itself. So we don't have to decrypt the disks each time the server will restart, for example, by getting the key from Active Directory. The cluster object will be able to get it himself and decrypt the disk by itself. And these are the commands we have to run. We first get the cluster name, and then we give it the possibility to access the key for both of our disks. And after we finish all this, we can resume the normal operation for the two disks that we placed in maintenance mode earlier. So now they are both online. And basically this is it. Now the disks are encrypted and we should be able to read what's on them. For example, if I would go to E, I should see my share, and I should see also the share that is on the cluster share volume. And here's the folder also here. So everything seems to be working, but I want to also show you how you can actually see the recovery key. Seeing that I'm logged on with the domain admin, I am able to see the recovery key, so we can install this RSAT feature on our domain controller or on another computer that has Active Directory users and computers. This is important because it will add another tab in the properties of our server object. So it's installed, and now check it out. If I go to FSO1A, I get this extra tab, and here's the recovery information that the cluster object can retrieve to decrypt the disks. Since we ran the commands from the A node, it's on the A node, so the B node doesn't have them, but it doesn't need them. They just need to be in Active Directory. The cluster object can find them and use them. So that was it for encrypting cluster disks. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. Also consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.